A productive third quarter for your banks. Your banks, as you like to say, return capital to shareholders in the form of dividends and stock buybacks. During your earnings calls at the end of the third quarter, we heard statements about how you're going to continue to manage your businesses to deliver value to your shareholders. Of course, what we did not hear was any concern that your firms would not be able to meet the anticipated increased capital levels under Basel III Endgame. If I'm mistaken, I would like you to set the record straight for the public and the investors. Do any of you have any reason to believe that your firm would not be able to achieve the increased capital requirements if Basel III was adopted as proposed? Any of you think you cannot you cannot achieve the increased capital requirements? Raise your hands if you think you can't. Thank you. I think you've indicated your firms will be able to meet the enhanced capital requirements. It leads me to conclude that the proposed capital standards are not too onerous. Mr. Scharf, American support for unions, as we've discussed, is at a half-century high. Unions help ensure that workers share in a company's success through better pay and better benefits, control over their schedules, greater stability to their personal and professional lives. Workers at 2 Wells Fargo branches will be voting to unionize this month. Dozens of other union organizing drives are in the works. Wells Fargo's recent scandals highlight the pressure that overworked and underpaid workers at short-staffed branches face. One worker said the executives don't have to deal with the consequences of their decisions in a direct sense, but we do. Mr. Scharf, I appreciate your willingness to talk one-on-one about this with me. I remain concerned about unfair labor practices and reports that Wells Fargo is geared up in response to the union campaign. Will you remain neutral as these employees vote to organize?
Chairman Brown, I agree with your sentiment about the importance of the workers and our employees. And as you know, we've done a tremendous amount to support them and will continue to do that. And we believe that it's best that we have a direct relationship with those employees, and we do intend to exercise our right to speak with them to make sure that they make an informed decision.
Thank you. It was an opportunity to show the American public truly a new day at Wells Fargo. I'm sorry that you failed to show that real change is afoot at your bank. Mr. Scharf, Mr. Moynihan, Mr. Diamond, and Ms. Fraser, according to the CFPB, failure to invoke the Service Members Civil Relief Act interest rate reductions cost service members $100 million between 2007 and 2018. You can unilaterally act to ensure service members receive those benefits, the escrow benefits they're entitled to. Do your banks proactively check authorized military databases to identify accounts that may be eligible for escrow protections? Begin, Mr. Scharf.
Chairman, we have huge respect for those that have been in the military. Specifically, to your question, I'm not sure, but certainly we'll check and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moynihan?
We again follow the SCRA provisions on an annual basis. We retroactively, looking back after we get notification, about $180 million a year we send back to those service members, including fees, which are not required to rebate, but we go ahead and rebate them. So I will check to make sure we're looking at all available means, but we comply with the law.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond.
I'm sure we comply with the law, but it's an opportunity to say that we've hired 18,000 veterans in the last couple of years. We support the United States military. We've hired 3,000 military spouses. So we stand 100% behind the class of citizens we hold in the highest regard.
Thank you. Ms. Fraser?
Similarly, with Chair Brown, we are very proud to employ many veterans, and we're incredibly grateful for everything that they do for our country. We make extensive investments in ensuring that we comply with the laws, and we do indeed tap into the database.
Thank you. Thank you for your candor about that. I urge you all to proactively check whether customers are eligible for escrow benefits. It's the type of work that you could be doing. The answers were helpful, and we will be back with all 4 of you about how we can help do that proactively. There's plenty we don't agree on. It's pretty clear. But I also want to finish somewhere we do agree. Supplemental security income. SSI provides a lifeline for 300,000 Ohioans, nearly 8 million Americans living with disabilities. The problem is SSI's eligibility rules haven't been updated by Congress. That's on us. In 40 years, they're now so outdated they lock people in poverty. The Bipartisan Policy Center called SSI's asset limit the most aggressive anti-savings provision in federal law. I have a bipartisan bill with Senator Rounds of this committee to raise the program's asset limit and stop punishing people for working and saving. Mr. Diamond, I know JP Morgan Chase is supportive of raising the asset level. I thank you for your leadership on this. Tell us briefly how it affects JP Morgan and why you're so supportive. Then I'd like to ask all of you if you would join Mr. Diamond and Senator Rounds and me in support. Mr. Diamond.
Senator, thank you. We have employees who don't want us to increase their salary because if it goes over a certain amount, they can't get that benefit, which they're entitled to. Or they can't have assets over $10,000. So this definitely should be fixed. We fully support it and try to be helpful if we can.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf, would you agree to support Mr. Diamond's position and mine?
It sounds like something that we'd be willing to support, but I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay. Mr. Moynihan? Ms. Fraser?
Fully and wholeheartedly.
Okay. Mr. Hanley?
We do support it.
Thank you. Mr. Vance?
We do support it.
Mr. Solomon?
We do support it.
Mr. Gorman?
Yes.
Thank you all. Senator Scott?